and welcome to this video. Today marks the last part of my tiny series in customizing my DS game cases. And today we actually have two cases, and I'm starting off with the one for my miscellaneous games, which actually are games that don't relate to any major series. They're not PEP related or anything. They're mostly like indie games that made it to the DS. And since they're not really having one like picture that pops to mind when I think about them, I decided why not customize this case a little bit differently. And of course I chose a brush that decided to shed, so I had to use my tweezers to fix that. I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna paint on this case. I'm only going to reveal that at the end, so feel free to guess down in the comments below. No cheating and skipping, please. Just, you're honest guest, but honestly the colors really giving it away by now, and I'm sure the details will too. And this one is just really simple, just two main colors and one like color that also is like an accent color, and then some tiny little details on one of the sides. And I know the thing that I'm painting right now isn't quite related to the games, but I thought it would be fun to have a case that theme. And of course I decided to freehand some straight lines, which, I watered down my paint a little bit more and it still wasn't really straight. So in the end I just skipped the freehanding and went in with some tape, which, could have saved me a lot of pain if I did that from the beginning, but I was stubborn. I didn't want to use tape and possibly ruin the paint below, or, And washi tape doesn't stick that much, it just sticks enough for the paint to be overlaid, and I actually pulled it while the paint was still wet, so I didn't have any sticking problems with that. And again, I decided to freehand something on the top of the box, and yeah, this is not straight at all. So I had to go in reverse and fix it with tape, which of course, if you know, dark paint is really hard to cover up with white paint, or I guess cream. So yeah, this was a pain, and I didn't really film it in the end, just a small part of it, but yeah, I went around every corner, taped it, painted over it with like 20 different coats, and of course in the end you can still see the lines a little bit, but it's definitely way better and way sharper than it was before. And with that, it's finished. I waited a little bit until I applied the varnish, and this is just a satin varnish by Liquitex. I actually really love the stuff. It feels super soft when you let it dry long enough. It will definitely stay a bit more sticky for a while than I thought. I realized that with the first two cases, who didn't get damaged a lot, but when I put them together they definitely stuck together. So, I let those dry for a couple of weeks longer and it stopped sticking, and then I could put them together, which, it's a good thing to note. So yeah, even though this feels really satiny and doesn't feel like it would stick, it definitely does. And this of course is the point where you guys could definitely guess if you know what it is. And if you guessed Nintendo Entertainment System, you're absolutely right. And I decided to paint that because it was basically my first console that... Actually, it was my mom's console, but the first console I played on, and I loved it a great lot. And after some medium satisfying tape peels, the tape was actually stuck in the corner a little bit. Let's move on to the Pokemon case, and as you see, I didn't realize there was tape left that I didn't remove. It's cut, I just didn't remove it, so I just painted straight over it. Maybe it was because I had to paint around my camera and it completely covers up, but yeah, This will haunt me forever. The Pokemon cases in this case will actually take me the longest, so it's a bummer, but you know, things like these happen. Anyways, this is my Pokemon case and the one I was looking most for. So my favorite games are not the main series, although I absolutely love them. They're actually the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series and the Pokemon Ranger series. And for this side I'm going to paint the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. And I decided to paint the first two Pokemon that I got as a team. Now, you take basically a kind of personality test in the beginning of each of the Explorer games to find out which Pokemon you are. Of course, there are certain tricks to get certain Pokemons, but, you know, I was very young when I started this, so I didn't know about this, and these were the ones that I decided on. And I absolutely love the game. The story is amazing, it's very involving, and I love the idea of having, like, a world where just Pokemon live. And you're like thrown in there and seeing how they live, the cute little villagers and stuff. Actually, as a child, when we played with the Pokemon figurines, we both built them, these kind of villages, and, you know, built all kinds of trading halls and buildings and stuff, and like a guild building. It was a lot of fun, and I have a lot of great memories for these games, and I'm really happy actually that they remade the blue version for the Switch, which, you know, they changed some of the parts that I really liked, and they definitely made it a bit easier, but I'm not mad about it, because it introduces people to the series, and I think that's amazing. Now, there are quite some DS games, even a 3DS game for the series, and I liked all of them. They're vastly different, but, you know, I guess the main plot is kind of the same. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's definitely, you know, every single one of them has a great story, and some of them are actually really difficult to play. So basically, mystery dungeons are an occurrence that happens in certain area where you are thrown in a dungeon. And what's so mystery about that? Well, it changes. There's certain rooms that repeat over and over, but the paths to the rooms and where the rooms are located is differently. So are the items and the staircases up, or depending on the dungeon, also down. So you have to try to find your way while fighting different Pokemon, and also then in the end most likely, you know, either rescue a Pokemon by fighting another strong Pokemon, or fighting a legendary, or just trying to escape some bad other Pokemon that try to hunt you down for something. I think it's one of the cutest games in the series, and I'm so happy that I found it as a child. Definitely spent most hours gaming on that one. Now, of course, let's not forget the main series. I actually started out with playing Pokemon Pearl. It was the first game I got for my DS, because that was the time it came out, when I was like 8 years old or so. I got it, and all my other neighbors got it, so that was the first game I wanted so we could play together, which we did. We spent hours in the underground trying to dig for valuable stones. At the time was vastly different than the remake, but it was a lot of fun, and the story I just loved. I spent hours trying to explore the world, getting to know the Pokemon and trying to figure out how to battle, and yeah, I just loved it. Later on, when Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out for the DS, I immediately got them. I actually got Soul Silver, and it's one of the best games. I spent hours on it, like with the remake and the sports arena. We used to connect all together, all the friends that had the game, and we used to play hours on hours on hours. So yeah, if we would meet up and it was rainy and we couldn't play outside, we just would get out our DSs and just play the arena. And, you know, search the right Pokemon for each sport and trying to compete, because it actually costs some kind of skills to manage playing these games. And I've actually played every single one of the games in the series by now. Even the new game that came out, I actually already finished the Pokédex and the whole storyline, and definitely doing a lot of these raids. It's a lot of fun, although, they kind of messed up the graphics a little bit and stuff, and there's definitely some lag, but the game itself definitely. It was different, but it was a lot of fun. But that's not a DS game, that's a Switch game, so yeah, definitely a lot different. Size-wise and graphics-wise. Now, as for Pokemon Ranger, I've played this series so many times, all 3 games, and yeah, it started out with the first one. I was like, oh, it's a Pokemon game, it has a pretty cover, so I got it in stores, and oh my goodness, it's so immersive, and it's so cute and good, and the music is some of the greatest music in any Pokemon game. And the story basically is you're thrown into a world, you want to be a Pokemon Ranger, you get a Pokemon that accompanies you and helps you, and you have a spinner, so you're playing on your DS, and by circling Pokemon with that spinner, you're trying to capture them. For some Pokemon it takes more spins, and they actually have to be spins that are connected, so you cannot just lift your pen and then the spins are still there. Now there's Pokemon all over the world that give you abilities, and you have to try and find your path. You need some aid from Pokemon to destroy rocks to progress and stuff, and you can also use them in battle, which is really useful for some, cause some make your opponent be slower, stuns them and stuff, and makes it unable to use attacks, cause attacks destroy your circles. And yeah, it's very challenging but also very fun, and it's definitely very involved, the movement. You just don't really have to press buttons more than you have to actually, use your stylus and go in there and catch them. And the story in these games is really good for all of them. You mainly have some bad guys, kind of like Team Rocket, just a little bit different, that want to use Pokemon for their schemes, and so you are actually in the Ranger Guild and you're trying to work your way up and trying to get different, things to do. So we actually are there to help people, help Pokemon, help them basically live together, discover new areas, try to maneuver and find the right Pokemon that you need to catch to actually progress. And yeah, I really love it. I know it might not be for everybody, it's very, very different, but yeah. So I decided to draw my first Pokemon. So this is the first Pokemon Ranger series Pokemon, so we're mostly accompanied by one of 2 Pokemon, and in this one it was either Plusle or Minun. I don't know if I got the English names right, to be honest. Anyways, I got Plusle, and yeah, I decided to draw it. It's so cute. Of course, I totally messed up the line art when I did it, but that happens. Was maybe a bit shaky when I drew this, but yeah, I still think it looks cute. And I decided to also draw the spinner, and we're just gonna ignore that one of the hands when I line it is kind of behind the spinner, Yeah, that's a wanted thing. That's totally not because I accidentally messed up the line art. Yeah, we're gonna ignore it. I still love this cover, it's super, super cute. But yeah, my adventure into the Pokemon games were always these fun memories, and they were always really positive, actually. I can't remember, a time when I didn't enjoy playing a Pokemon game. Maybe a little bit X and Y in the beginning. It was a bit difficult for me to get into that, but in the end it was still fun. And yeah, Pokemon series is definitely one of the greatest series that Nintendo released. And with that, the covers are finished. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of them and which one is actually your favorite Pokemon game from each series. If I have to think about it, mine for the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon would be Time and Darkness. Pokemon Ranger, probably the first one, although I like all of them a lot. And if I have to think about the main series ones, probably Heart Gold, Soul Silver, although Black 2 I also really love. But it seems to have gotten a really rare game, you know, to find, at least here in Europe. Actually getting Black 2 for me was very expensive when I got it, but I guess I got it early enough, so, you know, the prices are rising steadily, because I think they didn't make many copies of it, but definitely fun. And it has some different Pokemon from the old gen than Black 1. So yeah, that's my journey with customizing my cases. As you can see, I fixed the little thing that I missed on the side with just some silver paint. It works out for me. If I ever want to paint over it with the correct colors, I will. But I knew it would mess up the look and, you know, I wouldn't really be able to fill in the borders flat and stuff. So it just wasn't worth it in my eyes. And also, since I did 2 cases, you know, you guys get an extra length video. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great day. Bye!